Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Nova Holistic episode 22. My name is Diana, and I'm here to introduce you to a special, wonderful guest that I have for you today. Her name is Supriya, so let me bring her on. Hi, honey. Good morning. Hi, welcome to Nova. And
Thank
I'm really looking forward to speaking with you today. I cannot wait to find out about you, to introduce you to the world, and have you share your story and your passion.
thanks, Yana. I'm really happy to be here, and yeah, excited to have a chat with you.
That's so great. Excellent. So, for the audience and also for you, the way I do this is I think I might start today with asking you to introduce your healing modality to us. But then I'm going to ask you about maybe the trajectory of your life, your emotional space and your mental space, and sort of how you got to be where you are today. Yeah. But before we start that, I forgot to mention in the introduction, we're a few minutes late, and I apologize for that. I've had some, uh, technical difficulties here where I live today, so the internet is a little bit unstable. If we happen to drop out, my apologies, but we are here right now, and so without any further delay, let's go back to Supriya. And Supriya, would you tell us a little bit about who you are, um, Ayurveda, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, and yeah, I came to Ayurveda. Well, I guess I'll talk a little bit about Ayurveda first, right? So, what I'm really passionate about is bringing Ayurveda very practically into people's lives. Um,
Mhm.
and I grew up with Ayurvedic principles in the family home and saw, I guess, firsthand how it was implemented in our lifestyle, which was quite a modern kind of modern lifestyle where both my parents worked.
Mhm.
But there was the principles of Ayurveda incorporated into our lives when we were sick, but based on the seasons, what was happening seasonally, and just general education really around the healing properties of different spices. That was kind of really one of the key things that was
Mhm.
incorporated into our lives from an early age. Um, and in terms of, I guess, my approach to Ayurveda, the first place that I really start is really getting people to firstly like understand the energetic principles of Ayurveda. So a lot of people these days have kind of been exposed to Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Um,
Mhm.
energies. So, giving a kind of like a broad kind of like general overview of those energies, what they are, how they are in your body, how they represent themselves in your mind, and then getting people to kind of connect in and start to feel what those energies feel like in their body. And these are all done in a really practical way, like that's what one of the things about Ayurveda, it is really practical, right? So like you take Vata, for example, which is air, air and ether. It's light, it's drying. We're in Vata season right now in autumn in Australia, right? So you can feel the effects on that really practically, on your skin, right? Everyone is kind of like reaching the hand lotion at the moment. And, even I physically wanting to kind of get warm and cozy with how they are in their lifestyle and what they ingest, right? So I
Mhm.
kind talk about and get people to connect and feel what they're feeling on the inside, right? And that's really where I kind of start.
Okay. So I have so many questions about what does the practical application of Ayurveda look like? But maybe before we do that, could you tell us a little bit about, because I think the modality is really fascinating. What I really love about it is that it's really in line. I mean, we don't do the same work, but with the principles of what we do are so similar, that holistic approach, the approach to the whole person, not just an aspect of a person, which is amazing. But so I'm interested in how, I know you've mentioned your family and having that influence in your life, but can you tell me a little bit more about you, and how is something that was an influence from an early childhood become a passion for you? Like, there's a story there. Like, I was influenced with all different things when I was a child, but I'm not doing all of those different things. I'm only passionate about a certain, aspect of you know, uh, of my work that stems back to my childhood. That's what I'm interested in. How does this modality become your passion and your and the place where you serve the community?
So yeah, I guess it's been a bit of a circle, really, and
Mhm,
I don't feel like that circle's closed,
mm,
and I think going back to, my childhood and
mm,
it sort of being part of, our life. So spices have been part of my family history for a really, really long time.
mhm,
My dad actually sent me, some of the family history recently, and it actually goes back to, when the British invaded, and it actually goes back even further to the 1900s, and they used to transport spices on
mhm.
wooden dhows from, Gujarat in India to Zanzibar in Africa. And so
Wow, yeah.
this connection to
Mm,
spices, I only just found this out recently, goes back way longer than I realized.
mm,
That was and spices and the healing properties of spices was something
mhm.
I was exposed to as a child and was just interested in. Um,
Right.
and then I think, as we moved from England to Australia, and when we moved from England to Australia, just after that, shortly after that, my sister got quite sick with leukemia, and
I'm
so
sorry.
yeah, so that was kind of like, a period of like trauma in our lives, right? And my
Mm,
mum really lent on not only Ayurveda, she used Ayurveda because there was a lot of tools that she knew from
mhm,
Ayurveda, but she used like natural health modalities, other things, whatever kind of came her way,
mm,
to help my sister recover, which she did really, really well from
mhm.
Ayurveda, from leukemia. And so at that point, I was what, maybe 7, 8, and whatever my little sister in terms of natural health had to do for her own health and journey, my mum said, okay, we all have to do it to support her. And so
Mhm,
as a family, whatever she was taking, whatever herbs,
mhm,
whatever, we all got on board and we all took them. And
mhm.
so, I had that kind of like exposure, and I became more interested in Ayurveda and health and wellness from a natural perspective.
Yeah.
Um, and then I sort of went on, with my life. I was always drawn to wanting to study it, but growing up in an Indian family, I was pushed more towards kind of like the more
Mhm,
traditional corporate careers.
Mm-hmm.
And also my family were, we migrated here, typical sort of migrant story of wanting their kids to be financially secure, and working in natural health was not a financially secure career to push me into. So they sort of guided me away from that. And I went into a corporate profession. And then in my 20s, I broke out in adult acne, really big welts, sort of like almost like painful volcanoes, and just on my forehead.
Wow.
And yeah. And then I went to the GP and to try and figure out what was going on. And they said it's adult acne. Here's some medication for it. And it was quite harsh. It was Roaccutane. It was medication where you can't go out into, you're not supposed to go out into the sunshine too much, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, that's pretty crazy for adult acne. Let me go to an Ayurvedic doctor. And I went to an Ayurvedic doctor, and he really helped rebalance my body, and not only my body, but my lifestyle, right? And then I sort of went, wow, okay, there's a whole lot more to Ayurveda. And then I went on to study with him. And basically sort of started my journey, and have continued, to study and learn more about Ayurveda, and then make it into my profession, which I kind of always was where I wanted to go earlier on in my life, but I haven't quite got there until now, but it's all been part of the process, and everything I've learned along the way has been helpful to get me to this point. So yeah, that's being part of the journey.
Yeah, that's incredible, isn't it? I have, not with Ayurveda, but I have a personal journey as well, a health journey that led me to, well, botanical medicine essentially. I'm Eastern European, so I used to go and pick wild chamomile off the, in the garden and whatever, and we used to make tea from that, for example. So I grew up with all of those natural remedies, and then eventually, had to implement some of those things in my life as well. And it's basically the same as you said. It's just a different continent. Essentially. So it's people living from land, right? From what we have around us. So that's really amazing. Do you know what strikes me most when you talk about your story? It's like the most common denominator for a person's passion. When I talk to these people, practitioners like yourself, is there's always a really important component of a personal life, influence, like there's some sort of a personal aspect to or component to being passionate about something. Like, for example, with you and your modality, you had to experience something firsthand to live the benefit of it, and then there's something that happens inside of you and you just want to share it with everybody in the world. And it's so amazing, isn't it, when it so strongly comes from the inside, from inside your own experience and your own body and your own heart.
And I think that's so true. And that's, I think a part of that is identity as well. Like when you grow up, and, I've grown up in Australia. And although, I guess my family migrated from England, so it wasn't that different, but I guess my family still really was strongly linked to their Indian heritage, to my Indian heritage. And I think part of that is kind of like identity to full circle, like I kind of grew up and it was part of our lives, but it was almost like a secret part of my life, because I grew up in a really white Anglo part of Sydney.
Right.
And I just didn't want to be very different. I wanted to kind of fit in, even though I really, it was really obvious on my skin that I was from somewhere else, and I sort of hid a lot of that part of my life. And I kind of feel like it's coming full circle again now. And I'm kind of like, actually, this is so part of who I am. And I've always really loved this stuff. Like, let me bring that into, Australian culture and give in this way, and it's been an interesting experience, just in terms of really kind of, I guess, understanding and coming to like peace and giving of my own identity.
What's the? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because that sounds like reconnecting with that part of you, that identity. Seems like a really important. So let me rewind. I have a feeling inside of me that I'm trying to put into words in order to give the audience a taste for what it actually means to go to a practitioner like you and me, and the journey that we have to take in order to be able to give the best. To our service comes from the highest possible potential, right? And so you're talking about a journey that you had to take, which, what I'm hearing, included no longer maybe not disowning, but sort of putting to the side your culture because you wanted to be like everybody else. It was like embracing that part of you rather than, having it over there somewhere. That's really important because, like, it means that when you're talking about wholeness, you're in the service of helping someone step more into wholeness. You've had to do that yourself so that there isn't that internal fracture anymore, right? And so tell me a little bit more about that. What did it take for you to be okay, excuse me, to fully step into your heritage,
Oh, look, that's yeah, I mean, there was a whole process in that. Gosh, and that gets quite personal, really. But let's
I
go there.
know.
Let's go there. Okay, so basically, I mean, it took. There's so much involved in that, right? Because it's such a journey, and I guess let me just pick up some of the milestones along the way that were pivotal, right? Well, let me start at the first milestone. So I grew up in this, kind of like really beautiful part of Sydney where I was one of few brown people in the neighborhood, right? And so there was that as a young person, also moving from overseas and wanting to fit in. So there was the pushing away aspect. And then at around 16 years old, my dad kind of thought to himself, hang on, my kids think they're little white kids. I'm going to send them over to India for a little while so that they can kind of like just experience a little bit of our culture. And so me and my older sister went on this trip, first time to India, and it was amazing. It really like opened my eyes. I did not want to go. I was basically like really pushed into going, and we had the most amazing experience. And I kind of felt like, oh, hang on a second, like this is part of who I am. I really kind of felt that connection to my own identity and the one that I'd been pushing away. And, at 16, it was like such a great thing of my dad to do because like it was so, you're at such a pivotal point in your life, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful for that amazing experience. And then I fell in love with Indian culture and started to fall in love with Indian culture at that point in my life. And so that kind of sowed the seed. And then I sort of had these experiences where I would fall deep into, I guess, maybe parts of Indian culture that didn't really like sit well with me. One of which I decided to get married to an Indian guy. And I kind of felt like I was doing the right thing, you know, but it was really not the right thing for myself. Right. And then had to extract myself from that. And that was learning for me and my whole family. Right. So that was another kind of like, you know, way to kind of connect actually deeper with the culture, because I had to kind of go, actually, that part of the culture is not really for me, you know? But that was a way to get deeper with parts of the culture that were really me, which is the Ayurvedic side, which, you know, I'm passionate about. So I was kind of like, hang on, this part of the culture is really for me, you know? So that's kind of how it's kind of come about. And then we've had this amazing, I think the globe has had this amazing kind of like awakening when it comes to cultures and cultural identity. And I'm here being a part of that, you know, and kind of going, well, that's happening in the world, and it's actually allowing me to kind of really express myself and my own cultural identity as well. But just little things like seeing more colored faces on screens in front of us, you know, seeing colored faces come into popular culture with things like, you know, Bridgerton and like, you know, popular culture shows and that sort of thing. And just being a little bit more of, I feel like the world, I mean, yes, there's lots of areas where it can still massively improve, but for me, I sort of see like that there is areas where there's been more acceptance and kind of celebration of other cultures, especially here in Australia.
Yeah. So what I observe from what you're saying to me, right, is that it's incredible that you have the richness of experience from both cultures. It's certainly something that I deeply, deeply appreciate and resonate with, because it's the same for me. I mean, I'm blonde, but I'm not Australian. I'm not from here. I was 17 when we came to Australia, so I understand that shift of culture, like completely different, new language, new life, new everything, right? So I get it. I really, and it used to be something that never felt like it could play together nicely, you know, inside of me. But it does, it really does, because it gives me, at the very least, a sense of understanding of what it's like when someone is different to me, and that immediate, I sort of want to say tolerance, but it's not that. It's more like compassion, empathy, kindness. It's a default, right? When there's a broader worldview. So everything you're talking about, I think, is brilliant. And for me, would be really important to know that I'm seeing a practitioner that has the kindness and the understanding for someone that's not of your heritage, right? Because my body's made up differently. I'm not used to the same things you're used to. But the fact that you have that diversity, I think is brilliant. It's not always something that can be taught in books, right?
Well, yeah, I think that that's one of the things that I find with Ayurveda, right? Is that having one foot in each culture, I can see how you can kind of live in accordance with Ayurvedic principles and philosophy, but and how you can integrate it into your life. And I really feel like that's what Ayurveda is really all about. And it's one of the ways that I feel that sometimes it's lost in translation or misinterpreted, and hang on, let me change my whole entire life to become Ayurvedic. Whereas, like, the way that I see it is like, how can those Ayurvedic tools help support and, nourish your lifestyle, right? And
love it.
and so I
love
think
it.
that's what it's really about for me, is interpreting it in a way where it is accessible for anyone and everyone where they're at. That's what I really feel the most passion about, is bringing it to people in that way.
And are you, I mean, I presume that you are, but in your everyday life, in your home, is this something that that gets now passed on to your children as well?
I mean, yeah, they, it's funny as well, because I guess they like certain aspects of it, and other aspects of it, they're like, oh, like I'm like at the moment, I'm, with Vata season, I'm like, the oil, I'm making sure that they're really like oiled up, and the bath, but it's little things that they love, like my little one who's 5, he has the tea light can. I've got a tea light, a, what do you call it, oil burner with the black cold pressed black sesame oil in it, so it heats up while the kids are in the bath or shower. And he loves blowing out the candle, so he'll be happy to participate and do it, because he gets to, he's like, can I blow out the candle? I'm like, yeah, you can blow out the candle at the end. And then my daughter, who's older, is really like, she's starting now to kind of like understand the benefits of it. And like, so I'll be like, look, this is why I don't want you to have those certain foods right now, because they're gonna affect your body in this way, and she can kind of really start to understand that. But that's, and even just the, what all of the different spices do for you, like that's all the teachings that I guess I felt like I was taught as a kid, kind of like, ginger is really warming, it's really warming for you, use it this way, or use it, you squeeze it and have it with some honey and some turmeric and black pepper, when you've got a cold. All of that sort of stuff they're exposed to. And they're both different. Like, one of them like loves trying all of this stuff, even though it might taste a little bit weird sometimes, and the other one's like, oh, do I have to do it? And but yeah, so it's just different. They're different natures.
Yeah. So back to Ayurveda. I'm curious, I want to ask you about okay, I'm just going to say it. I don't know if it's the right question, but I'm going to say it anyway. I want to know if there's a spiritual side to Ayurveda. Is there
a spiritual side to it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, the Vedic texts are a philosophy. It's different to, I guess, religious philosophy. But yeah, absolutely. So the spiritual element is kind of deeply ingrained in Ayurveda, right? And it's all a process of leading you to, I guess, a more balanced life. And when you're more in balance, like your body and your mind, you start thinking about things in different ways, right? You start thinking about how you are in the world, how you're behaving in the world, how you're interacting with the physical environment around you. All of these things are like integral to Ayurveda. They're not separate. And so one of the things that Ayurveda really does with the system, because it's a scientific system, right, is that it looks at your mind and spirit with your body, right? It doesn't take them apart. It includes it as part of the same system. So, it definitely, incorporates that as part of the treatment and part of the plan. That's why meditation, yoga are all part of Ayurveda.
Amazing. And so what does a session with you then look like? Like, if I was to say to you, okay, let's make an appointment, does it have to be in person? Can it be online? Where do you start? What does it consist of?
Yeah, I see people online and in person as well.
Mhm.
Um, and the first session really kind of is a little bit of a deep dive into, you know, the person, the client, kind of coming in.
Mhm.
And we really kind of get a sense of what's going on. And I basically help you connect into how you're feeling in your body. And some people come with specific kind of symptoms, right? They could be feeling like they could be digestive stuff going on, or like sleep disturbances, or something coming
Mhm.
in, which is coming in strongly, and that's why they're coming in. And other people kind of just want to use it more as like preventative medicine,
Mhm.
and getting more in touch with their own bodies and seeing where they can come back into the balance so that they don't get sick. Um,
Mhm.
so that's really what the first session is all about, is kind of just connecting in with your body, connecting in with your mind, your emotions, and having a look at what's going on, in your
Mm.
mind as well, because as I said, they are kind of part of the same channel.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we dive a little bit deeper and respond to like what that person needs, and what's going to bring balance into their lives, and start incorporating some changes that will lead to them having more balance in their bodies and minds. And
Mhm.
we work together to kind of bring those. I like to kind of keep it quite simple. And really, I believe in creating like little changes at a time. So making little shifts, seeing how they sit, feel, starting to really feel the effect of those little shifts, because little shifts can be quite powerful, right? Um,
Mhm.
so once I find that people kind of get an idea of, okay, I'm doing these little shifts and they're having a really good impact on me, then they're more likely to enjoy them and keep going with them because they're having a positive impact, and then incorporating a few more. So usually the way that I like to see people is kind of, at around, I usually spend about 5 weeks with somebody
Mhm.
and help them incorporate those changes into their lives, because otherwise I feel like accountability is also key, right? Otherwise I find that, and some people are able to do this, where I am able to give them a treatment plan and say, okay, this is for you, start incorporating these things. But most people need a little bit of like just a gentle hand to hold along the way to start bringing those practices into their lives before they become
Mhm.
part of their normal, everyday routine.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it takes the brain about that long anyway, and the body to kind of practice a new habit or a new way of being anyway. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And I
Mm.
want people
Mm.
to walk away with something they really have embodied, so that they can
Mhm.
continue to do it and continue to experience the benefits of it.
Mhm. Excuse me. Yes. Yeah, that's really good. I had another question and it's just left my brain. Um, mm, yep, it's gone.
I'll
Do
come
you
back
know
though.
when he's going to come? You know when he's going to come back. The second we finish, that's when he's going to come back.
Like, Supriya, I forgot to ask you this question.
Yeah, that's right. Just put it in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, I know what I was going to ask you. There it is. So, I'm sure that you think about this, and I do as well. Well, I just said I'm sure. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Let me ask a question. So, if a person was not feeling well, belly aches or just whatever, why would a person come to a practitioner, a natural practitioner like yourself, as opposed to a GP? It's what I'm trying to determine, like talk about here, is more from that other side a little bit, more about advocating for sort of natural practitioners a little bit, I guess is what I'm asking you.
I think that there's, I feel like there's a more of an opening for natural health practitioners in the market, right? Because people are sort of generally, most people are, not, they've got a sort of a feeling of a little bit, they're feeling a little bit unwell, in certain areas of their life. And going to a traditional GP, they'll kind of look at your symptoms and prescribe sort of, something for your symptoms. Oh, you're not sleeping that well. Okay, well, hang on, let me give you some sleeping tablets. But that doesn't get to the root cause. And people talk about this a lot in Ayurveda, right? It's about getting to the root cause of the dis-ease, right? And if you're not sleeping that well, it may not be that a sleeping pill is the answer to your problem. Really, you want to find something that's going to support you and get you to a place where you are sleeping well, right? And that's why the Ayurvedic practice, I think, is starting to kind of become popular, is because it looks at your lifestyle. And that I was just speaking to someone about this morning in terms of the idea of lifestyle medicine. And that's what all of these things are, really. Like when you think about yoga and the way that yoga's exploded in the West, it is a lifestyle medicine. And the reason that it's a lifestyle medicine is because all of a sudden you're getting onto that yoga mat, you're focusing on your breath, you're breathing, you're calming your nervous system down, you're giving your body an opportunity. And as soon as you calm the nervous system down, all these amazing things start happening, right? Like your digestion starts working properly, your hormones start working properly. Like there's all of these amazing benefits that come, and people may not necessarily be able to pinpoint it. People get like, I think people get like, oh, I'm really into yoga, it feels really, really good. They might not be able to completely pinpoint exactly what it's doing for them, but they get into it because they know they have that innate sense of wisdom in their own bodies of this is really good for me, and I think that's why it's exploded. Same with meditation or mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, it's starting to become so popular because people realize that it has massive health benefits for their body and mind, right? So that lifestyle medicine is something that I don't think, unfortunately, the Western medical system isn't geared that way. The GPs don't have the time when you go and see them to sit down with you and go, okay, like what's going on lifestyle wise, what's going on emotionally for you, where can you use some of these tools to help bring your body back into balance that could fix your digestion and fix your sleeping problems, that's where I think it really kind of can be incredibly beneficial.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everything that you're saying. Actually, it's an ongoing conversation that I'm having with many practitioners about, what is that, secret sauce, that's really um, um, that's the consideration for natural practitioners or holistic practitioners, because I'm not a naturopath, I'm a counsellor, but I work really holistically, and holistically also means the physical body, right? And so when I don't know, then I refer, right? I get my clients to work with natural practitioners, right? Um, because it's absolutely key. Wholeness is wholeness, and at no point is it just about the mind and the brain. Never, ever, right? The physical body can't, like you said, you can't, it's not one against the other. It's not just one. I mean, just yoga and a yoga mat is not going to fix you. You need that and other things and the lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And I think, a lot of it is just like as well. And this is really, I think, one thing that I feel like is unique and is so beautiful about Ayurveda is that really it's a language to help you connect to yourself, right? And once you connect to your own feelings, your own symptoms, then you can start to go, okay, what are the things that are going to balance that out? How do I bring that balance? And it's a very practical wisdom. It's a very if there's too much of this in your body, the dry, what's the opposite quality of that is going to bring balance into your body? And a lot of it's so innate, like a lot of it is like it's autumn now, it's cold, it's dry. What can we do to balance the cold and dry? Automatically, what are we doing? We're going towards the soups, the stews. Every culture has that that sort of wisdom. It's just the difference is that Ayurveda has scientifically categorized every single food, including meat, into categorizations of like, this is what it does energetically in your body, right? If you ingest, this is what the season does energetically in your body, right? How do you balance? So that's the sort of science of it, right? And that's the language that I try and teach people, which is a language that everyone is familiar with, like everyone understands what it means to be dry, on your body and feel that dryness in your palate inside your body,
So do you have any thoughts, any observations, any wisdom with regards to how can we get Ayurveda on the map a little bit more, or or collaborating more with other practitioners, or how can we become a community of practitioners with more collective credibility, so that people are not just conditioned to look for the symptom, but they're actually deepening their personal experience?
So yes, that's a big question.
I know.
I think for Ayurveda, one of the ways that I see it sort of being infused more in Western culture is through yoga and meditation. I think those modalities have penetrated deep into culture, into our culture, into corporate culture. It's become part of the mindfulness meditation has become kind of one of the more normal things that people are kind of aware of. And I think through those modalities, partnering with Ayurveda and partnering with Ayurvedic practitioners partnering with those, you can kind of, I think that the knowledge and the wisdom of Ayurveda can be spread further. The net can be sort of spread further. There's also other amazing stuff going on as well, like the National Institute of Complementary Medicine. I'm working with a girl from the National Institute complementary medicine, which is an arm of Westmead, of doctors that believe in complementary medicine, which is amazing, and I think that there is that there are doctors, Western medical doctors, that are really kind of seeing that there's so much that can be learned and so much wisdom that comes and so much healing that comes from some of these modalities. And so I think the coming together of Western medicine and Eastern medicine, is really important. And I think that that's starting to happen. One of the things that I'm sort of working on is working with, with a Western medical PhD scientist, and where she'll bring in the Western science that proves a lot of the Ayurvedic. So that's one of the things that we're working on and are going to launch, and where we actually go, okay, because a lot of people, that makes it really accessible, for a lot of people, they go, okay, that's the proof. And a lot of people need that, right? They need to go, okay, well, there's been research and it shows, like Western scientific research that shows this. There is a lot of research in terms of Ayurvedic medicine, but I think people in the West really need to have guided in maybe through the Western medical side and research. And then they're like, okay, and you bring them both together. And that's one of the things that I'm, I'm working
on. Yeah. I love that you are advocating for, your modality to be more widely accessible to people, which is really amazing. Okay. So we're at almost an hour, coming on to 50 minutes now. I wanted to, in closing, ask you if there is anything else that you wanted to, say in closing about either yourself or your modality or your work, or for the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I really believe that Ayurveda can help, anybody along their journey, wherever they're at, in terms of health and wellness. And, everyone can do with a little bit of that, guidance to balance. And it is a flow, everyone's kind of, it doesn't have to be kind of that you need a specific symptom, right? You can kind of just come into Ayurveda and see where it can help balance you along any various different point in your life. And that we're all in need of that to some degree. So it's really about tools. I think it's really about learning, what tools are going to be most helpful to you at your stage of life, in your lifestyle. And I wanted to kind of offer a free 20-minute sort of consultation. If anyone wants to jump on, any of your listeners want to jump on, they're really welcome to come and have a chat and just, learn a little bit more and see about what tools could potentially be beneficial.
Amazing. Thank you, sweetheart. That's really wonderful. So what I might do is, when we finished, I'll put in the comments, in association with the live, your link, the link to your website again.
Yep.
Yes. And with the 20-minute free chat, if they want to make the arrangements and give you a buzz and go from there. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That's really good. So look, my darling, I just want to say thank you so much. I know I told you that I don't prepare for these because I like to organically unpack the conversation. So I know that I took you by surprise with a couple of questions, but I just want to really honor your courage and your willingness to be transparent, and explain and talk about your journey with all of us, because it's such a huge component of, what makes you who you are today, and all the intrinsic, beautiful little underlying parts that you bring to your therapeutic practice and to the healing process when you are with a client. And I'm so grateful for that. That's really special. really
Oh,
special.
you're
So
welcome.
people get to know you a little bit better. They understand you in a deeper way, and they're probably more likely then to engage with you as well in that therapeutic setting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's really like it's such an honor and a privilege to talk about Ayurveda and share this amazing wisdom. And so just having a platform to talk about it is incredibly important, you know. And so I just have such deep gratitude and thanks for having me, you know.
Of course, my pleasure. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll just say some last words, if you don't mind just staying in the studio, and then we'll close the live, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, audience, so let's just see now. Thank you, everybody that watched. I really appreciate you. I love you. I hope that you get some amazing, aha moments and little ooh from this conversation. And like we mentioned, if this conversation resonated with you, please feel free to connect with Supriya, and she'll be able to sort you out, okay? All right, bye-bye. Mwah. Much love. Thank you. Oh, and don't forget to support this podcast by sharing it in your networks as well. Okay, bye-bye. That's it. I'm done.